What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be taking off the oil pan on our 2008 Subaru Impreza. As you can see here, the oil pan is tucked in behind the exhaust, which we need to remove. The first thing we need to do is disconnect the O2 sensor wires on top of the engine. They're on the passenger side right by the power steering pump. Once you have that disconnected, it's time to loosen the U-pipe from the downpipe. There are three 14mm nuts. I had to use my feet for leverage, they're on really tight. Next, there are three 14mm bolts on each cylinder head holding the exhaust. I busted out the big impact gun for these. 3 of them came out without the studs, the other 3 came out with the stud. It doesn't really matter, it just makes it harder to remove the U-pipe over the studs. I had a little trouble removing the U-pipe from the downpipe, but nothing a little hammer time couldn't fix. I almost dropped the pipe on my head though. With the pipe out of the way, we can now get to the oil pan, but the back bolts are behind the subframe. I can't even fit my hand in there to loosen the bolts. I ended up jacking up the engine to fit my tool in there. There are 2 14mm bolts for the engine mounts that need to be taken off. Then jack up the transmission here, place a board or a 2x4 between the jack and the transmission just in case. I lifted everything about 4 inches, but watch out for anything that can get caught, ripped, or crushed on top of the engine or underneath. 4 inches was enough for me to fit my hand and tool underneath the oil pan. Here's the tool combo I used. It's a long 3/8 extension with a swivel and a deep 10mm socket. I was able to guide the socket with my fingers onto the bolts and then get them loose. It wasn't that bad, but I have a feeling putting it back on will be a little tougher. Once the back couple bolts are loose, the sides and the front are pretty easy to take off. The pan is sealed with an RTV type gasket. There is no paper. It's really stuck on there. You're supposed to use a gasket cutter to remove the pan, but I don't have one of those, so I use a pry bar. Pry from all different sides and angles until it starts coming loose. If you do it this way, make sure you straighten out the oil pan if you bend it anywhere, or it will leak oil later. You'll also need to remove the dipstick tube from the oil pan. I used vice grips to lightly grip the tube and wiggle it back and forth while applying upward pressure until the tube came out. Then the oil pan drops right down. Now we can remove the pickup screen. There are 3 bolts holding it on. Look at all this metal in the screen. Something is definitely wrong here. The metal is very thin, a little bit thicker than aluminum foil, but clearly magnetic, so we can tell it's not aluminum. The sizes vary, but something is clearly wrong here. I couldn't see inside the block to check if there was something visibly wrong, but I'm definitely going to tear the engine apart to find out. I called a couple junkyards around here and looked online, but the cheapest used engine I could find was $800 with over 100,000 miles on it. That's more than on this car. I know it would be easier to just replace the whole engine, but with that kind of mileage, what's to say the replacement won't have a similar problem? And I don't want to spend $2,000 on a rebuilt engine. I can do it myself for less. So coming up next, we're going to be pulling the engine out of the Subaru in preparation for a full disassembly. Once again, thanks for watching and tune in next time.